Hello, I'm still not Corey, but I am asking Joe Rogan to please just stop. If you don't know who Joe Rogan is, how? He has the biggest podcast in the world, pretty much. He just gets people on and they talk about stuff. People from Elon Musk to Bernie Sanders to Abigail Schreier, Abigaba, transphobes. The thing is, he kind of brings on anyone from comedians to scientists to pseudoscientists to politicians, anyone, like literally anyone that is famous in some way could probably end up on the Joe Rogan podcast, so long as they've got something to say. On his podcast, Joe Rogan shared his very interesting view on vaccines and who he thinks should be taking them.
And people say, do you think it's safe to get vaccinated? I've said, yeah, I think for the most part it's safe to get vaccinated. I do. Yeah. But if you're like 21 years old and you say to me, should I get vaccinated? I go, no.
Yeah. Oh.
Are you healthy? Are you a healthy person? Like, look, don't do anything stupid, but you should take care of yourself.
Don't do anything stupid. Does he realize that vaccines are one of the only medicines that are for healthy people? Like, you only take a vaccine before you're sick. If you're a healthy young person, of course you're going to take a vaccine. It stops you from getting the disease.
If you're a healthy person and you're exercising all the time and you're young and you're eating well, like, I don't think you need to worry about this.
Exercising doesn't stop a virus, Joe. Look, eating well is great. Exercising is fantastic. It doesn't mean that you can't get ill. Otherwise, we would have just, like, stopped doing vaccines and just made sure that everyone was working out.
You might have to have your children vaccinated. Both my children got the virus. It was nothing. I hate to say that. If someone's children died from this, I'm very sorry that happened. I'm not in any way diminishing that.
Okay, if you were to say, crash your car, and you weren't wearing a seatbelt, you wouldn't then go ahead and say to people, oh, actually, no one should wear seatbelts because I crashed my car without wearing a seatbelt and I was fine. The overwhelming evidence is that if you crash without a seatbelt, you're gonna be less safe than if you're wearing a seatbelt. There's no reason not to wear one. Okay, sure, you might be uncomfortable wearing a seatbelt. Sure, you could get a little bit uncomfortable. And I'm sure there are a few cases where seatbelts have actually harmed people more than they've helped them. But like, why would you not wear one? Why would you not wear your seatbelt, Joe? I can't believe he actually said, oh, my kids were fine. Sorry if yours died. Like, Joe!
This virtue signaling and this kind of like theatrical display of I get the vaccine, what a good person I am, I care about everyone.
Okay, right. Just because people are saying, oh, I've got the vaccine, that makes me a good person, it doesn't mean you shouldn't get the vaccine. If anything, you're virtue signaling by saying, oh, well, since people are doing the good thing and getting the vaccine and not shutting up about it, I'm gonna not get the vaccine because I'm not just do it anyway. Like, you're keeping yourself safe, you're keeping everyone else safe. Just because your kids felt fine, it doesn't mean that everyone else's kids are gonna feel fine. It doesn't mean that it's actually safe. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. That's 2 kids out of all of the other kids in the world. Like, do you understand how that works? It's not just about how sick you get individually, it's about spreading it to other people as well.
Yeah, I'm not injecting my daughter with something to virtue signal.
No one's injecting just to virtue signal. It's because I don't understand this. When people talk about virtue signaling and they say, oh, I'm not going to do that just to virtue signal. The reason isn't just because of virtue signaling. It can keep you healthy. It can protect you from this very deadly virus that's going around, man. Like, that's the main reason. The fact that you're not doing it out of spite is worse than doing it to make yourself look good. That's hilarious.
I'm sorry, I'm not taking any experiment
It's not an experiment. It's not an experiment. Vaccines are good.
Even saying that I'm not going to inject my child with the vaccine is controversial. It's crazy.
What's crazy? Right, this is the thing. The reason it's controversial is because it's not just a decision that affects you, it's a decision that affects everyone else as well. Because sure, okay, your kid could get it and they might be fine, right? But then if your kid spreads it to someone else and that spreads it to someone else, then you've got a spread of a virus. It's not just about each individual person, it's about everyone. People are scared of vaccines because of anti-vaxxers. It would be equally controversial if a bunch of people just decided to stop using medical treatment that worked really well. It's controversial when you decide to not give your kid cancer treatment, right? It's controversial to do that. So that makes sense that it's controversial to not give your kid a vaccine that could save theirs and other people's lives, potentially. Why would you not?
We're talking about something that is not statistically dangerous for children. But yet people still want you to get your child vaccinated, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, you should be vaccinated if you are vulnerable.
What? Right. Okay. You should be vaccinated if you're vulnerable, but some really vulnerable people can't be vaccinated. The point of vaccinating everyone is to protect everyone because it spreads through people. Like, this is the thing. When people like this are saying, I don't really get why it's controversial, it's because you don't, like, have you looked into it? Or have you just listened to people who don't like vaccines? Have you listened to the scientists? Have you listened to the doctors? Or have you just looked at some articles, like, oh, skim through them and be like, I don't understand it? Come on. So the internet went mad at Joe Rogan saying to his audience, hey, if you're young and healthy, you probably don't need to get the vaccine. Which makes sense because Joe Rogan's audience probably would take medical advice from Joe Rogan. Anyway, this is his response.
These are not like planned statements. Let's be real clear. When I say something stupid, I'm not thinking about what I'm going to say before I say it. I'm just saying it.
Yeah, man, I gathered you don't think before you speak. Oh, hey, man. I'm really sorry that I hurt your feelings with that callous statement. I just don't think before I speak. That's all, bro. You can't get mad at me for hurting you or for, saying something that's blatantly wrong. I just don't think.
If you say you disagree with me, I probably disagree with me too. If someone said young, healthy, 21-year-old people who eat well and exercise are not at high risk for coronavirus, but you should think about other people, I would say, well, that's a different argument, and yes.
I love how he's just gone back on what he said. Oh yeah, if you were to tell me this and then, explain it fully, then yeah, I'd agree with you. I guess I just don't think. No thoughts, head empty. This is half of an apology, though. This is half of an apology, right? The funniest part about this is that usually you would be like, oh man, I didn't think, I'm sorry. Joe Rogan is being like, I don't think. That's just how I deal with it. You can't get mad at me, because I'm head empty, no thoughts, man.
Problem is today, everything's all headlines and highlights, and it's all clickbait, which is fine. That's the business.
You can't spread misinformation on one of the biggest podcasts in the world and expect no one to talk about it. This isn't like to do with clickbait or journalists. It's not to do with people like filtering through a 3-hour podcast. You said, if you're young and healthy, you don't need to get the vaccine. You have young and healthy people listening to you. They'll probably be like, oh, I'll listen to Joe Rogan. You can't just absolve yourself of all responsibility because you decide to be stupid. Oh my gosh.
And what's the best way to make a living? Here's one way. Take a jackass like me. Go over this 3-hour drunken, ridiculous podcast. A lot of times we're drinking and I say stupid shit. I get it.
You know what? Look, if you're drunk and say something dumb to your friends, that's fine. Who cares? If you're drunk and you say something dumb to 10, 20, 30 people, whatever. But if you have hundreds of thousands of people listening to your podcast, it's a little bit different. Maybe take some responsibility, mate. Maybe just a tiny little bit of responsibility in there.
And if you make money off of that, more power to you. I don't care. Just don't lie. Just don't lie.
Right.
Get a little clickbait.
I didn't see anyone.
We're good.
Yeah.
I saw the clip. No one was lying. These are such rubbish excuses. Oh, it's journalists' fault. Please don't lie, journalists. They posted the video. People watched the clip. Like, you said that. You can't just decide that it's the journalist's fault for what you said.
I was going to get the vaccine. I was scheduled to get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Right. This is the thing, though. He didn't say that he wouldn't get it personally. He just said that if you're young and healthy, why would you get it? Like, look after yourself. And this is the thing. It's baffling because, okay, sure, you're gonna get it. That doesn't change that you told people to not get it. And also, if you're saying to people, hey, if you're young and healthy, maybe think twice about getting this, why? You're then just casting doubt on something that is proven to be pretty damn safe. Even if you're planning on getting it yourself, it's still not a good thing to make it out as though it's an unsafe thing to do. This isn't the only time that Joe Rogan has put his foot in his mouth when it comes to this kind of stuff.
I want people to walk down the street with a mask on?
Let's not start this, Joe. I'm not going to sit here with no medical degree, listening to you with no medical degree, acting like we know what's up better than the CDC.
See, this is the thing, man. Bill Burr is spot on, though. You're trying to talk over people that know more than you. Joe Rogan actually admits that he doesn't know what he's talking about. He has no idea. He just said that. I've got no idea what I'm talking about. So you can't be mad at me. If you have no idea what you're talking about, then stop telling people to not listen to doctors or the CDC or public health officials. That is their job. They know better than you. I promise they know better than you. The thing with Joe Rogan is that he's just being completely irresponsible, and his defense is, well, I'm dumb, so you should just deal with that. But you shouldn't be spreading misinformation or casting doubt in a way that can actually cause danger to the public Especially when you've got a massive platform like he does. I'm not trying to end him, I just think he should shut up when he doesn't know what he's talking about. That's my issue with the Joe Rogan podcast. He's kind of that equivalent of the friend who doesn't really know much, but is like, hey man, have you heard about like this conspiracy? Yeah bro, it's crazy man, it's crazy. This is the thing, because he's so sporadic, sometimes he hits the mark, but other times like this, he just completely misses it. I don't hate Joe Rogan, I don't think he should end his podcast necessarily, I don't think he should be cancelled, I just think maybe he should try and think before he speaks. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all of that boring stuff. You can also find my main channel. And also, thank you to my patrons with a very special thank you to Sarah. They are all on screen now. You can join them over at patreon.com/notcorry. There's a lot of fun stuff that goes on there. And you should join there, please. I have a podcast. I have merch. You know all of this stuff. Unless, of course, you don't. In which case, there's that stuff. I think I'm done. Okay, very good. Goodbye. You can't blame clickbait. You can't blame clickbait and journalists